Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Endicott Invest channel. Today, we're going to talk about Pagaya. They just had a new release yesterday. I'm a day late, where they expanded their point of sale funding platform with up to $720 million. And so I'm going to talk about that, talk about the deal, how it's super bullish for the company, and also just go over the stock a little bit and talk some Pagaya. I will be live tonight with Wealthmatica and Nick, or AKA Nick, and so I wanted just to talk about it a little bit. But as we can see, today, for whatever reason, it's down almost 4%, hit a low of around 2075. And yesterday, basically, the news dropped and it was unaffected. Um, and so it basically didn't react to the news. But what I want to do is just go over the news for now, kind of talk about why it's important, why I think it's a big deal, and to kind of just go over the details a little bit. So, go ahead and zoom in here. Pagaya expands their point of sale um, of up to 720 million forward flow agreement with Soundpoint Capital. So Pagaya's inaugural point of sale forward flow agreement underscores continued strong institutional demand for Pagaya's point of sale assets. And Pagaya continues to diversify its funding program with multi-billion-dollar forward flow capacity across personal loans, auto loans, and point of sale. So this was announced yesterday, like I said. A global technology company delivering AI-driven product solutions for the financial ecosystem today announced a new forward flow agreement with Soundpoint Capital. I love how Business Wired talked about Pagaya like that. I think that's awesome. So they partner with Soundpoint Capital, a leading global alternative credit manager with over 45 billion in assets under management, for the purchase of up to 720 million point of sale loans sourced through Pagaya's platform. Okay. This agreement marks Pagaya's first forward flow transaction for its point of sale program, reflecting a focus on scaling efficient, repeatable capital solutions with long-term institutional partners across its platform. So they basically got their first ever point of sale agreement, right? And so it sounds, I mean, realistically, it sounds like a boring headline, but it's honestly a really, really big development for them, for the business in a long time. So I think it changes how Pagaya scales, changes how risky the business is, and how predictable the revenue becomes. So really, in plain English, what actually happened is Pagaya underwrites point of sale loans at checkout. Soundpoint commits in advance to buying that loan flow, and so this is Pagaya's first point of sale forward flow ever. So up to 720 million. And again, Soundpoint manages 45 billion in credit assets. Um, but let's go through this a little more. This agreement marks Pagaya's first forward flow transaction, reflecting a focus on scale and efficient. I went over that. Following the successful launch of its AAA rated point of sale revolving asset backed securitization shelf, Point or Sound Capital or Posh in 2025, Pagaya has continued to diversify its funding to support the expansion of its rapidly growing point of sale business, raising more than $3 billion in prospective funding capacity since launch. Pagaya has built a differentiated institutional grade platform for accessing consumer credit, and Soundpoint basically said, "We're excited to partner with Pagaya to support the continued growth of its point of sale strategy while offering our investors consistent exposure to short duration assets with highly attractive risk adjusted returns." And then Pagaya said, "We are proud to partner with Soundpoint for our inaugural point of sale forward flow transaction. Together, we're connecting capital with a responsible expansion of our consumer credit opportunities through a product that resonates and is strong demand by institutional investors. This agreement is an important milestone as we continue to efficiently scale our point of sale business." So, again, why this is a big deal is it removes the biggest risk in consumer credit, as we all know, funding, right? So that number one thing that kills fintech lenders essentially is funding drying up. And so this big deal basically locks in demand for Pagaya's point of sale product, regardless of market conditions, which is awesome. It also creates a revolving structure. And so because the point of sale loans are short duration and revolving, the same 720 million can realistically support around $2 to $3 billion of loan volume over time. Um, the CEO, Gal Grabiner, I think I said that right, literally said at Citi's conference that a $300 million facility can buy $1 billion of loans over 24 months. And so to me, this is way bigger than it seems, and it's a big deal. Now, the other reason why this is a big deal is the balance sheet risk is tiny, right? So if we walk through the math super slowly, a 5% retention is $36 million. dollars. And let's say the total volume is maybe 2.4 billion, 2.5 billion. And so the effective exposure from that is around 1.5%. So basically, a guy gets paid on billions of dollars of volume while only risking tens of millions, right? And so I just think it's a big deal for them, especially being their first point of sale. Now I want to hop over to what Trevor said. Trevor knows the name better than me, and I think he kind of highlighted why this is a big deal. So please give him a follow. Let's zoom in here so you guys can read this as well. But yeah, please give him a follow. I think he does a great job covering the name. Um, but he kind of talked about a couple things I hinted on. So they confirmed their first point of sale deal with SoundPoint. It's an important milestone for PGY as one of the it's one of their newer verticals, and it secures long-term committed institutional capital, which is something I mentioned as well. This secures the deal. To simplify, PGY's tech underwrites loans at checkout, and SoundPoint commits in advance to purchasing that loan flow. So this lets Pagaya scale their point of sale volume, earn recurring fees, and grow the platform without becoming a lender or guessing where the next buyer comes from. They know who's buying the loan before they're approved, so they don't get stuck holding the risk. Again, something I mentioned, they don't get stuck holding the risk. Big deal. The facility itself is revolving, meaning as borrowers repay their point of sale loans, that capital flows back into the facility and is redeployed into new loans. Not all forward flow agreements are structured this way, so this marks an important step forward in making Pagaya's funding more scalable and capital efficient. Now, here is where things get really interesting, and this is where Trevor talked about that leverage here. So, in what the CEO said, Gal Grabiner, because their point of sale loans have a short duration, management has specifically stated that these facilities can typically cycle 3 to 4 times, meaning the same $720 million can support roughly 2.16 to 2.88 billion of total loan volume over time. The CEO, Gal Grabiner, at the city's fintech conference, point of sale, we went out with the structure that is revolving. So you put 5% as a risk retention on a $300 million loan, that's $15 million. But the power capacity of the $300 million loan to buy over the next 24 months is $1 billion. So 15 million and 1 billion is 1.5%. So again, Pagaya is required to retain up to 5% of the loan, or about $36 million for this deal in particular, on its balance sheet to ensure its goals are aligned to SoundPoint's. However, because this forward flow agreement is revolving, that capital does not increase as volume grows. So the effective long-term exposure ends up closer to that 1.5% I mentioned before. So you do 36 million divided by 2.4 million, so around 1.5%. So at the end of the day, and this is a great kind of into it, this deal validates Pagaya's point of sale product, improves funding visibility, and shows how the platform can scale meaningfully while keeping the balance sheet risk contained. So again, I know that was a lot of numbers, a lot of talk. But yeah, it's a big deal, right? Um, Pagaya also, this kind of, in my opinion, becomes more of an infrastructure, not a lender. So obviously, we know, they're for the tech. People like their APIs, and they just take fees in between connecting lenders with buyers, or sellers, with whatever, with lenders and buyers of the loan, or sellers of the loan. To me, this means Pagaya is becoming infrastructure, not a lender. So they're not betting on credit cycles. They're selling underwriting and access. Um, this makes revenue, like I said, more predictable. So forward flows are private, repeatable, and long term. This also, to me, in a way or in a turn, creates more of a moat. So once large credits fund plug into Pagaya, they don't want to leave, and they get consistent deal flow, and Pagaya gets permanent capital. So it's sort of that flywheel logic. And again, to close it out, this deal, like, obviously, as you guys saw, does not mean the stock doubles. As we can see, the stock is still down. I mean, today it's down 8%, or not 8%, geez, 4% if we look for on the daily. And so it doesn't mean the stock is going to double, but what it does mean is that they're quietly solving the hardest problem in fintech, and that is really scaling without blowing up. Where SoFi did the same, where they've slowly, incrementally scaled, continuing to grow, continuing to grow. We've seen that flywheel of all of their products. Um, and so to me, really, the story isn't, at this point, the story isn't that Pagaya works. It's simply how big can they get doing this. Um, and so I think it's awesome. I think the fact this is their first deal is great. And I think this will scale to billions over time as point of sale or as Zero Point Capital start to see the effectiveness and efficiency of their point of sale. I think they're going to continue to want to or continue to give them funding up front and kind of take that fee. But yeah, that's everything up, guys. I just wanted to touch on it real quick, touch on the deal. I think it's a big deal. I think it's awesome. Catch us tonight talking Pagaya as well. I'll be on with Nick and Mathematica, and appreciate you guys supporting. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.